Joining me live now is the opposition leader of New South Wales, Chris Minns. It's not often that you get right of reply in a kind of live way here. Let's go first to that issue. Local manufacturing. Dominic Perrottet threw out a bit of a barb there about, Labor having not done anything before they came to power. What do you have to say about that?
Look, they've offshored jobs now for about a decade, Laura, whether it's ferries that were built overseas, light rail that was built overseas, trains that were built overseas, buses that have been built overseas. They've had jobs plans for all these other countries and none right here in New South Wales. There are half as many apprentices in this state in 2022 than there were in 2011 when the government was elected, and thousands of jobs have been sent overseas. Now, by-election happens and all of a sudden we're having a renaissance in manufacturing. The truth of the matter is most of these projects have been late or over budget or both, and you only have to look at ferries on Sydney Harbour that can't operate in high swells and are in dry docks, or light rail in the middle of the city that's broken down for a period of 12 months to see that this has been a spectacular failure that's been championed by Dominic Perrottet for 10 years, and now we're expected to believe that he believes the exact opposite. I don't buy it, but it's up to the voters of this state.
OK, well, what did the voters say at the weekend? They've lost Bega and a significant swing there. What does it say about you?
Look, I think it's a direct message to the New South Wales Premier. I think it's a message to lift his game, to listen to experts, to make common sense decisions about important issues affecting the state of New South Wales, to not just trust your gut and your ideology. I recognise that, however. I don't think that this is a big mandate for New South Wales Labor. We've got to earn that. We've got 12 months to do it. And I don't want to misread what the electorate is saying. I think it's a message and a wake-up call to the New South Wales government. We've got to collect those votes and ask people to trust Labor and a change of government in this state for real change. I'm determined to do it, but we're not there yet.
So is it about the pandemic response? Do you think there's just not that incumbency benefit that usually comes with the crisis anymore?
I think initially in the campaign it was certainly about decisions that were made in mid-December to lift some modest restrictions that were in place that were taken away by Dominic Perrottet. And also, I don't think him being honest with, in particular, the workforce in our public hospitals, that the Omicron wave would lead to increased hospitalisation and real pressure on the public health system over the Christmas and New Year period. But as the campaign went on, it's about other issues too. And I was curious to hear the Premier today and yesterday say that he's not afraid to make unpopular decisions. Now, I think that's a real concern. I mean, everybody's done it so tough over the last 2 years. I would have thought it's the job of the New South Wales government to make life a little bit easier for families and businesses and frontline workers. And yet he seems intent on pursuing decisions that are difficult and that the public don't like. In particular, offshoring jobs, more privatisation, user pays toll system and more fees, taxes and fines in the largest state in the country. So I'll be interested to see what he has to do, but I would much rather him pursue common sense policies rather than his own gut and his own ideology.
Well, you mentioned ideology because this is something I asked him about on Friday. He's been a Premier for 4 months now. His opponents were saying he was too conservative, he was too religious, too young, had a bad track record. But then, one of the most important bills in Canberra for the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, was a religious discrimination bill. Dominic Perrottet said, well, don't pigeonhole me. I don't believe that this bill is necessary and I don't know why they're doing it now. Doesn't that go against what his opponents are trying to shape him as?
Look, my sense around New South Wales and in particular the challenges we face over the next 12 months are about economics. The cost of living, the rising cost of living for families in this state. Petrol's gone up 30%, housing costs have gone up 7%, transport costs have gone up 6%, childcare's gone up nearly 6 or 7%. Fresh food has gone up close to double digits. I think beef's around 8%. Everything is getting more expensive in this state. And when I'm talking about ideology from the New South Wales Premier, I'm saying it's a sense from the senior levels of the New South Wales government towards privatisation, making things harder for people in New South Wales. You don't have to look any further than toll roads to see that this has been in the DNA of the New South Wales government.
Why don't you want to talk about the Religious Freedom Bill? What is your position on the Religious Freedom Bill? Is this something that's just too difficult for Labor to address? Do you think it's necessary?
No, I mean, obviously we support the federal government's, federal Labor's position in relation to that. and I've said that in the last few days, but there are huge issues for us to combat in New South Wales, and I think that the New South Wales Premier has to understand what families are going through right across this state rather than just trusting his own gut. And I think the message from the by-elections, which was big swings right across regional New South Wales and in parts of Sydney, he seems to be hearing, no, I'm full steam ahead, I'm going to continue to make unpopular decisions. Well, where's the mandate for that?
Okay. Chris Minns, good to talk to you. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, Laura.